The tricky thing about being a writer, or about being any kind of artist, is that in addition to making art, you also have to make a living. My short stories and novels have always filled my life with meaning, but, at least in the first decade of my career, they were no more capable of supporting me than my dog was. But part of what I love about both novels and dogs is that they are so beautifully oblivious to economic concerns. We serve them, and in return they thrive. It isn't their responsibility to figure out where the rent is coming from. What I was looking for in a job was simple enough, something that would allow me to pay the bills and still leave me time to write. At first, I thought the key would be to put the burden on my back rather than my brain, and so I worked as a restaurant cook and later as a waitress. And I was right. There was plenty of room in my head for stories, but because I fell asleep the minute I stopped moving, very few of those stories were ever written down. Once I realized that physical labor wasn't the answer, I switched to teaching, the universally suggested career for all MFA graduates. And while I wasn't so tired, days spent attending to the creativity of others often left me uninterested in any sort of creativity of my own. Food service and teaching were the only two paying jobs I thought I was qualified for, and once I'd discovered that neither of them met my requirements, I was at a loss. Could I follow the example of Wallace Stevens and sell insurance? All I knew for certain was that I had to figure out how to both eat and write. The answer, at least the first spark of it, came in the form of a 250-word book review of Amy Tan's novel The Joy Luck Club. I had published several short stories in 17 magazine and had asked my editor, Adrienne Nicole LeBlanc, both of us 25 at the time, if I could have a nonfiction assignment as well. The economics were easy enough to figure out. 17 ran one short story a month, 12 stories a year, and if I was doing my absolute best, I could never hope for more than one or two of those spots. A writer of nonfiction, on the other hand, could publish an article in every issue, sometimes multiple articles in a single issue. I had finally identified a job that I more or less knew how to do that would be neither mentally nor physically exhausting. Which is not to say that it wasn't aggravating at times. I was asked to rewrite that book review half a dozen times, and each time I was told I had to consider yet another aspect of the novel. My word count was not increased to match these new points of interest, and more words in meant that somewhere other words had to come out. So I trimmed and tucked, found a single word to express 5 words worth of feeling. I explored the realm of mother-daughter relationships on the head of a pin. Once my book review was accepted, I started pitching ideas for articles to Adrienne, who took the better ones to her boss, Robbie Myers. Unlike in my fiction, where I prided myself on making things up, I found these articles wanted personal experience. For every 10 story ideas I came up with, growing up with horses, or when your best friend's a guy, or how to decorate your locker, I would be given the green light to write one of them, without contract or kill fee. And for every 10 I was allowed to write, maybe one would actually make its way into the magazine. The one that was accepted would then be rewritten 10 times as I received round after round of notes, not only from Adrienne and Robbie, but from various editors in other departments and all their interns who were honing their own editorial skills. I never felt that way when I was 15, read the note most regularly penciled in the margins. And while I wanted to say, "Did you grow up in Tennessee? Did you go to a Catholic girls' school? Did you stay home with your parents on weekends and never go on a single date?" I refrained. If they wanted to see themselves reflected in my piece, I would put them there. I would find a way to wedge in every single one of them and stay within the confines of my word count. 17 magazine, where I never had an office and rarely visited, was the site of my apprenticeship. I learned how to write an essay there, just as I had learned how to write fiction at Sarah Lawrence College and the Iowa Writers' Workshop. whereas fiction...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.